Hello, friends. Good evening. This is Dr. Rao coming to you the regular Saturday hour where I'm going to take individual subjects and talk a little bit about them and see if people are more participating in the discussion too. Today, I want to tackle a subject. This is very important, I think, down the line, you know, because we are going to uh, pay attention to this subject quite much because a lot of people are having problems with their own diet and nutrition, weight, um, diseases, so many things, right? It's all because not able to really determine what is good for me, for my body, right? That was happening quite often, and people are uh, on the wrong diet, sometimes because they don't know or because their family had been force feeding them from childhood because that's a traditional thing, that's a tasty thing, and they don't really pay attention to nutrition that much. Few people are health conscious, and the people who are health conscious, they are choosing their diet very carefully, uh, and then they don't understand beyond carbohydrates, proteins, fats, like that. Modern medicine to medical recently, nutrition was not taught to the physicians in a laborious, in a meaningful way. It was more like consult nutritionists, consult dietitians, or now functional medicine people, any number of people. But physicians are more like you treat the diseases, But then ancient systems had this very important thing. Nutrition was used as a medicine in a lot of people so that they can provide that. But of late, scientifically, we have the genetic code. We got that now. Um, so the genome is used very well. I think things are going pretty rapid rate in terms of treating the cancer or identifying certain diseases like that, right? But in nutrition, they have two things going on. One is that nutrition, does that affect the genetic code? That's one aspect. The other aspect is, does the genetic code change the food particles so that they will be affecting us in a different way? Okay, so both ways it can be influenced, right? So that is the thing that I want to bring to discussion here. And there are ways to go scientifically and explore all the cellular processes, genetic material processes, and understand them completely. That is for us scientists to do, and the real interested people too. But in this topic here, what I want to focus on is, first of all, bring focus to this kind of branch and how it can be very useful for us down the line, and also how we can really understand the expense, the lack of authenticity and all that, right? See what they do. They tell you, okay, we have a dentist done, $79, and then they will say, okay, this is the recommendation we're giving. But then they say this is only research and educational purposes. They won't say this is therapeutic, this is treatment. Okay, so that way they are not being really responsible for the recommendation. So there is a long way to go when they can tell you, okay, generic code is this, and this is your diet, and you should be eating this kind of foods. These are not good particular foods also. It will come. It will evolve into to that, and I don't know. It will happen in 5 years or 25 years. We don't know. Uh, Intelligence with a genetic code breakdown with so many applications, I think it will happen within the next 5 to 10 years, probably. If not completely particular foods, they will definitely suggest groups of foods. Okay, and also they can always tell you how your genetics are going to be influenced by certain nutrition elements and you want to avoid them. Right now we know if we change our lifestyles we can change the epigenetics, and that way it's not like it's all permanently fixed in certain things. Just because you have certain genes you will have this disease forever. It was not like that. It is now established that if you change your lifestyle, you can change your epigenetics, and thereby your genes that are causing the disease can be altered. But you have to have a very strict regimen, really understanding what is bad for you. People are doing that. They are very, very important. So another aspect I want to bring here is because my entrance into my studentship in ancient wisdom, one thing was very clear. In Ayurveda, they use diet as medicine. So what did they do? They kind of studied your body. They diagnosed you their way. They have these energies: vata, pitta, kapha. These three energies are going around in your body, and the same kind of energies are there in the foods too. Suppose you are out of balance in these doshas, they call it, and then they will make you come back to the balance by balancing your diet. Okay, I'm being very simplistic, but that's essentially what it is. But then they have very intuitive understanding of the metabolic process of the, even up to the digestive process, everything they have, and they will prescribe things for you that will give you the heat or the coolness of the foods, or the pungent or sweet or salty taste. All those things they balance such a way that will be your medicine, actually really tailored to you, customized to you. Okay, they call that as a seed body. Seed, like a seed. When we put a seed, the tree comes up like that. In that seed we have all our genetic material, but they didn't know the genome, they didn't know the genetic, but they said the seed body. Actually, to explain this more, the human body, they said, ancient Indians, they said it has a gross body, which is the stula body. That means the bones and muscles and all that, all the organs. And then there is a subtle body where our thinking, our feeling, our reaction, all those things happen. That is the subtle body. And then there is this bija, that is the seed body from which all roots are come. So they can take your pulse and feel the pulse and judge you what kind of this bioenergies you have or the doshas you have, and what is the out of whack now, and then what did you do in your lifestyle. It could be what you eat, what you drink, how you eat, what time you eat, all that, and also how you think, how you react. All those personality testing they would take, and then they say, okay, you have very racy thought and you're anxious getting very easily. That means your vata type of dosha is out of whack. So we want to bring it back with the foods that are do not have this much that kind of thing. I'm telling you very crudely, but actually that is the concept of it. So then they corrected it, and you bounce it back to your natural state, Prakruti they call it. So they said when you're born, you have these three bodies, and then you are in balance, that is, you are in nature balance, right? That they call Prakruti. And then you are living a lifestyle that's not really suitable for this kind of body type you're born with. Then you kind of make it go out of whack, and then you will be coming back to correct it by doing this kind of diet, this kind of lifestyle. Okay, so now the if you really look at the current state of what's going on, genome was isolated, and then we can say in the cancer, for example, I have a patient with lung cancer. So we wanted to take advantage of the genetically um, based therapy for that particular cancer. So we sent her to the university center where they did her genetic code, and then we determined what kind of, not me, the oncology and all those, there are regimens. They determined that this particular chemotherapy will be good for this particular individual cancer that she has. By using that, one thing we really noticed was the previous patients who are using this kind of uh, uh, treatment, they didn't know what was going on, right? Then the people who used regular chemotherapy according to whatever the choice the nutritionists had without taking into account the genetic code, they lost a lot of hair. Okay, that was normal, right? It's all the chemotherapy. But then when they tailored according to the genetic code and then gave the treatment to this patient, the patient had no alopecia, and she did much better. She recovered much faster than the previous regimen. Okay, so I was very encouraged when I saw patients like that. So I was always trying to see whether particular, we diagnose lung cancer, we diagnose colon cancer, we diagnose skin cancer, we diagnose breast cancer, we diagnose cervical cancer. All these things we do, right, as a preventive workup, and then we do the colonoscope, or we do the uh, lung scans, we do the pap smear, or we do the mammogram. All these things we discover these cancers, and then we send them for the genetic. When we diagnose, confirmed it, then we send genetic testing, and then we ask the oncologist try to see whether they can have chemotherapy or whatever the cancer therapy they have, whatever they're choosing to do, is it compatible with the present genetic code? Like that, later on, diabetes, high cholesterol, and a lot of diseases like allergies, intolerances people have, right? We can have the genetic testing help us to choose the foods that can really help the patient. That is the nutrigenetics. There is a nutrigenetics and nutrigenomics. One is where the genetics are influencing the uh, food as it comes, the nutritional or change, and then there should be positive or negative effect. On the other hand, the nutritional particles can change our existing genetic code in a better way or harmful way. So that lot of research is going to happen, and lot of recommendations will be happening. Even now, they are recommending some things for some people, and that can be taken advantage of if you have the money. But these things are pretty expensive at this time. Maybe they pick up and more people use them, it will be much easier, right? So that is there. But then, meanwhile, I wanted to bring forth my understanding of the ancient wisdom and how they prescribed general lifestyles and then diets and all these small things that we can do to help our health in a much positive way. Wisdom, so that we can these things and understand these simple things like eat vegetables and fruits, eat only when you are hungry, and drink water, sleep early, and calm your mind. All these lifestyles that we do will be really helpful for people uh, in the long run to have a good health. So I myself do those all those lifestyles. I don't go for the modern lifestyles of depriving my sleep or being in a hurry, being worried all the time, and then stressing on myself out with a lot of unnecessary stress that we can generate by reacting to everything, all those things. So lifestyle changes can make a difference without, even if you inherit genetics, you don't have to reflect the disease in your body and mind. So that is the important thing I want everybody to understand, and then work that way. So, and then we can always take advantage of genetic code develops and more people using their foods based on the genetic code. I think that's going to take some time, But once that, then you can already they are doing some work on that. But then more and more specific, more and more widespread will be there. More it will be cheaper probably as the more people are using this. So it's a very encouraging news, very promising news, and very much it is happening there. We know about it for a while now, but I don't want to come and prescribe something to somebody just like that. You are not at the stage. We are at the stage of understanding what's going on in the scientific circles in terms of genetics and nutrigenomics. We do understand the cellular process, the genetic process, the DNA process, and all that. That understanding is scientifically, but is it resulting into practical applications? Some are there, some are going to come in, but even the ones that are there, they are pretty expensive, and then they are not going to promise you treatment or something for sure. They are going to say this is all research still, this is all educational for now. Okay, that is at the stage. I hope people have a good idea about it, and there are people on the wisdom map too. If anybody wants to come up, I'll be happy to answer, or you can tell me what you know about these things too. Okay, there's John Bush, Ray Davis, Curtis, and Andrea, Hakeem, and Samantha, and so many people are there. If you want to engage me, you can come up and we can talk about these things. Um, there's so much to talk about nutrition from the ancient point of view, because the food they ate was really not processed food, right? That's one thing. Other thing is they were not really um, uh, polluted by um, chemicals, and plastic, and also their lifestyles were not going all over like ours. That was also there too. So those things you have to take into account, how the holistic life that they led, and they were going to bed early, getting out early, and they don't have this information overload. They don't have so much of burden on their mind and on their stress mechanisms and all that, right? So that is there. But then they were able to maintain a lifestyle that's more whole, that's not polluted. That's the point. Whereas we have to deal with this too. So some of our genetic makeup also will be changing according to the um, atmosphere and also the food nutritional elements that we're going to use. So that is all there. So it's a fluctuating, evolving picture, but it would be a tremendous tool for us to be able to use the knowledge of our genetic code to really change our nutrition or vice versa. Okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to tell people about. This is only the beginning of this topic, and as we go along, I'll bring more stuff into that as I get into this topic much deeper. My interest was but now, these genetic code based processes are very expensive right now, but we can do ancient wisdom, commonsensical, something routine we can do, like drink more water, simple, eat more fresh food, that's simple, decrease the processed food, that is simple, and also understand your body makeup and then adjust the your thought, your lifestyles, so that you will be not disturbing that prakriti, that nature, that is homeostasis that we inherit from our parents. And then, as you are exposed to the world, to the world's practices, culture, and all that, some of them are not really good for us because they are more refined, like a white rice, a white flour. You see, like that examples are there where we are unknowingly or because of the taste we get involved indulge in this white flour or white rice, and which is resulting in a lot of incidents of diabetes. You can have diabetic genes, but you don't have to reflect the disease in you because you are changing your lifestyle. Okay, suppose you are actively exercising right from childhood, and then you are eating only when you are hungry. You are eating like a balanced diet. You will be healthy most of them, but that's not happening. People are eating outside. They don't have control of the what kind of quality of food they are eating. Sometimes all the fast foods, and also they gain the taste, and according to the taste they eat, not according to what's good for them. That kind of thing. Okay. So I think I will stop there. This is just the introduction of this topic, and as we go along, if I get uh, more questions, I will be answering them, and I will uh, build up the topic. As we go along. Okay. Anybody has any questions, they can come up. Otherwise, I'll be closing it pretty soon. Okay. Hi. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Rao. I heard you earlier in one of the rooms we shared with Heidi.
Oh yeah.
And yes, I thought what was interesting is I have yet to hear of the word nutrigenics.
Yeah.
Um, I wondered to myself if that is like a combination between eugenics along with nutrition.
Yeah.
But I also know that you discuss energy as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe you could just share a little more so I have a brighter
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah. What I was saying there, you're Trish, right? Trish?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm Trish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meet you too. Yeah, Trish. What I was saying is, see, as human tribe, as human beings, actually we are all one energy. Even the modern science, modern physics is telling us that. Okay, Einstein also, right? We found that we're all in one energy. And what we think is we are separate, and then we kind of expend a lot of energy to come back together again. Actually, we are together. So if we really understand, are we really separate? Like a Trish, for example, you are there, I am there. The way we feel the fear, the way we feel the affection or love, whatever the feelings are, they are the same, right? Maybe degree may be different, quality may be different, but what same. Suppose somebody dies, we weep the same way, right? So all around the world, so psychologically, internally, we are all the same, and we are all one energy. People to realize, because we are brought up with this separate sense of I am individual, I am separate, my energies are separate, my troubles are separate, everything. uh, that feeling really solidifies and gives us a feeling like, oh, I am separate from these people. But actually we are not really separate. That once you realize that, once you really understand that and look at that and feel it, then you are liberated from the separate feeling. That's what I'm talking about. Make sense, Trish?
Yes, it does make sense. I feel like when you refer to
Yeah.
that, it speaks about like when people use the word the collective
Yeah.
or the like the big picture,
Yeah.
um,
The
that
same
it
thing.
just
Yeah.
reverts back to
Yeah.
as humans we all bleed red.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a lot of the people don't really understand that that's happening, And then people go through tremendous loneliness because they don't have this feeling, and then they may marry, they may have an office, they were all things, but then they come to me with this burnout or stress, saying that I don't have that peace of mind or feeling that I belong, you know all these sensations of racism, man woman, all those separations that we built up are not really that firm. Actually, you are a human being, I am a human being. At that level we are the same, but you may have learned something more than me, and I may have learned something more than you, or I have a different quality of experience with the family, with whatever we go through, right? But those are all experiences of, that's not us. What we are, that energy is only one. And once you realize that, not even to grow into it, just realize that it's already there, then it's a tremendous freedom. Where like I never get bored, I never get feeling lonely because I'm always feeling that energy, and that replenishes me, that gives me a lot of energy. You know, so I think that is really real. If you take the ancients, Trish, that's what I spend a lot of time on. They have worked on these internal matters quite well, thousands of years. You know what they have come up with, because they identified that, the like, let take for example you, as a child, as a young girl, and then later on, as you're growing up, you always have that feeling, I am, that sense, right? That doesn't change. Only our body shape and body feeling and all that may be changing, and also the things that we think about them, that also change our personality and all that. That is the wrong way we're going about it. Instead, if you start with what we are run, the sense of intuitively we feel, okay, I'm this, and then look at everything coming and going, body changes, mind changes, thought change, and all that. Then you realize, okay, we are all having the same energy. That means we are in one energy. You know, physics has shown that now. It's only one energy, they say all the time, but people are not getting caught up with that.
Yeah, I feel like with people, there's other layers to us besides
Yeah,
just being human. Um, because then we're taught how to somewhat be separated or maybe segregated,
yeah,
especially like when you involve gender, um, our ethnicities,
yeah,
our race, our economics,
yeah,
and I think when those sorts of demographics come into play,
mm,
it it, it can be very daunting, I would say,
yeah,
because I know at the end of the day, we do want to be liked and loved and appreciated,
yeah,
seen and heard,
yeah,
and also thought as if you are me, I am you, we're one.
yeah,
And as beautiful and holistic as that is, um, and again, something I try to yearn and lean into,
yeah,
there are other capacities within myself
yeah.
that remembers the areas of how we can be separated,
Yes,
or looked differently
exactly.
in terms of our experiences. Meaning, like for example, I'm raised as a female,
Yeah,
as a woman, as a mother, and my experiences, a man, a father,
yeah,
um, would not be able to necessarily understand.
yeah.
Um,
You can
because
empathize, but you cannot live that experience. The mother feeling is mother, right? No doubt about
right,
it.
and I always and I tend to say this
Yeah, mm,
with a lot of love in a sense
yeah,
that, like, obviously I love men. I have
yeah,
children of my own who are young men who are
yeah,
growing into men,
yeah,
and but I remember saying, like, the closest to me being a man was when my children were inside my womb, and
yeah,
therefore I had the experience of being a mother, a woman,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden within my stomach there is, a son being born, and eventually as they continue to grow, and I watch them grow, um, I say it's so funny that when I think of men in general nowadays, I feel
yeah,
like they're always trying to get back into the womb.
yeah, yeah,
That space of where they felt safe and
yeah.
nurtured and appreciated and valued and loved and taken care of, and perhaps maybe that's how most men are,
And also,
because I know.
mothers also feel that the child is always mine, even though he grows up, he becomes a man and all that. That is the some journey they have to do. They have to get out of the mother's role and then get to their own self. So
Right.
these dynamics are there. They're definitely they're all there. But the thing is, people who are self-realized means they realize this sense of oneness with everybody, right? A lot of people use that word oneness. We are oneness. And actually, Ancient used a term called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudha means world, Eka means one, Kutumbakam means family. The whole world, the entire living beings are one family. You know, that kind of taught them not to be violent to the animals and the trees and the nature, and also they felt like I am my neighbor, and that's why I'm not going to hurt myself, that kind of thing. So that philosophy really helped them to be non-violent and evolved state, not everybody, some people. And then also there is something about inner peace, Krish. That inner peace when you don't imagine any enemies or everybody is you and you are them, that gives you very I mean a very tranquil feeling, because you don't have
Right.
any.
Like
Yeah,
I think what you're referring to is it reverts back to like a space of love and
yeah,
compassion. That,
yeah.
for example, if you were to hurt somebody,
Mm.
um, yes, you would hurt them, but you would also be hurting yourself because
Yes,
somewhere deep within you,
yes,
you know that
exactly.
pain
Yeah,
was involved
yeah,
and that there was sort of purpose behind it.
yeah.
But which is probably why we then tend to feel that sense of guilt. Do you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Even though I think I try my best to get a feel for where my core values are, this way I can be incongruent in knowing that I won't allow myself to sit in any sort of shame, blame, or guilt. But
Yeah,
I do know because I am human, I can experience those feelings as well.
exactly, exactly,
All the
exactly.
more I extend myself to how I someone else, still a reflection on how I treat myself.
I will tell you something happened with my son. I think couple of years ago, he was around 23 or something at the time, and we were going in a car to a hotel because there was some graduation or something, right? Then what happened was he was talking very animatedly about the Trump, the president, when he was not able to tolerate him, and he was cursing him and all that, even though I'm not a fan of Trump or anything like that. I told him something I learned from our spiritual masters is that there are no others. See, they may be mistaken what they are doing, or we don't agree with what they are doing, but why do you have to allow anger, hatred within our own mind? That's the point. Then I don't want my son to grow up hating or really being angry with that person, but you can raise against them in indignation that this is not right. This is not the right way to do it. That's fine. That's what I do, but I don't allow the anger, hatred grow in my heart. You see, suppose
Yeah, I
you.
think what you're saying though is there's something to be said about where they are in their
Yeah,
journey. So, for example, whether you agree with it or not, you
exactly,
could still be neutral in accepting them for that's
exactly,
where they are in life and that's
exactly.
the life they chose for themselves.
Yeah,
Therefore, it's not whether it affects me or not. It was just more of like I can accept them
yeah.
knowing this is
See,
who they want to be.
when I was growing up, Krish, in India, influenced by Gandhi's philosophy. The to understand what exactly nonviolence means, according to Gandhi, it took some time. What he said was, I don't want to hate my British brethren, you know, but I'm going to stand against their injustice in indignity, but I don't allow hatred or violence to grow into me. This principle of non-violence is, first of all, don't be violent to yourself. That means you don't develop angers, all these things. But it's not right, then you can stay with it and then face it and then tell them that I'm not going to put up with it. I'm going to uh, resist you. That kind of this happened to Nelson Mandela while he was in the prison, and that's why when he came out, first he overcame his own anger or hatred, whatever he has for the whites, and then when he came out, he avoided millions of people to be slaughtered in the civil war otherwise. You know, so these kind of things are very important sometimes. There's other thing too. If you keep your heart and mind pure without all these things, then you have more chance of realizing your real inner self and you will be in that blissful consciousness that is always there.
Right, I get it.
Yeah,
And I do welcome that state of being, especially when it
yeah,
comes to that sense of euphoria, because you
exactly.
know that sort of euphoria is very lighthearted.
Yeah,
Um, it's very compassionate. It's very joyful. It's very peaceful, and it is at a space of being cozy and knowing like I can let it roll off my back. You
yeah,
know what I mean? I
yeah,
feel like when we
exactly.
tend to consume ourselves with
When
hatred.
you say euphoria, the doctor in me comes out. Euphoria, we kind of use it when we drink the alcohol, we kind of get that feeling elated. But then,
Euphoria is such a great word.
yeah,
It's
I
so
know what you mean. I know what you mean. But when you are,
relief.
yeah, that is gone, the euphoria is gone, then you feel depressed. You see, that's that's what I'm
Well, I
talking.
think when I think of euphoria,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's something that
I
you
know.
can hold on to for a lifetime,
Yeah.
provided you know how to practice into going into that space.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah. I know what you say, but I'm just telling you what I feel as a doctor. But there's another word, Trish, we can use bliss because this is the feeling that we get is bliss. In ancient terms, they call it Sat Chit Anand. Sat means existence, Chit means consciousness, and the meaning bliss. So that blissful feeling will not go away with anything. That's the one thing that they talk about. You know.
yes, I mean when I think of being bliss, like I don't know, I feel like bliss seems very kind
Yeah.
of like an aloof. It's very
Difficult to get. Yeah, that's true. No doubt about
yeah.
it. Yeah, it's not
Whereas
an
like
easy thing. Yeah,
I think if I focus on just being adorable at all times, be
yeah,
daring, be
yeah,
unique, yes, I allow myself to be bold in my character to
yeah,
enjoy. You know, like I think that's the word I always focus on with people. Like if you go, just find ways to
yeah.
whatever that looks like to you.
No,
Try to enjoy.
Trish, there is something about this ancient wisdom. Why I took it up is it is about the suffering of seeing physician and also observing the world, the personal suffering, the women suffering so much around the world, right? I'm kind of connected with the current affairs and I see the suffering all the time. So I wanted to understand what did the ancients say about this suffering, and they said, yeah, that's why Buddha took it, and also ancient non-dual philosophy of India. All those things are addressing what is suffering, or is there a state where you can be blissfully present in this world and live like you are the boat in the water? It is there, but it doesn't the water. It kind of touches it, doesn't belong to it. It goes up. You the suffering world, but not different. But then really recoup blissful nature you have. That's the significant thing, I think. What happened was after that blissful things is more commonplace. I am not into the superficial pleasures that I was into before. They automatically fell off. Not that I have become a monk or anything, but then um, things become much more real. Like, for example, my patient suffering is more important than a movie I can see and whatever. So it is much more tuned with I'm here just to help them with that. Sometimes they can be pretty bad cases, and also psychologically very upset with all the thing that kind of thing presents to me. But then if I get indulged in sadness, then I cannot help them. But if I understand them, I can empathize with them, I can really be there for them, just like we have really looked into that. That helped a lot. You see, this is about understanding suffering not just for me, but of suffering in the world. And then this becomes so much. You see, in most of the America, I have been here for quite years now, right? What happens here is everybody looking for their personal uh, good life or enjoyment. Only few people really think deep and understand the suffering in the entire world. Okay, like we see now, how many people are really suffering the inequality of the richest all over the world. It's the same.
When
Yeah.
suffers.
Yeah.
We all suffer. To say that not one person ever in this world suffers is a
No, no,
lie.
no. We all suffer. Yeah,
It
that's true. That's true.
like everyone is to some degree or another, especially when it comes to the energy of knowing that um,
Mm.
there's great suffering in this world,
Yeah.
and it's a matter of how many of those can in fact empathize with it, understand it, or even be able to be in joy
And
with it.
and able to transcend.
And
And
yes,
that's
I
it.
think
Yeah.
that aspect of the transcendence takes the experience and
Yeah.
also the wisdom to
Yeah.
be able to
Understanding.
carry
Understanding, wisdom.
the
Yeah. All that. Yeah.
yeah, carry a safe space for that, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. There were thousands of these investigations. They call them Satya Sodhana. That means investigation into the truth of any matter. Interest into the this one. What I am saying is, once you touch that spot within you, then you can transcend the suffering. But you go and work for the welfare of the world because you know what the suffering means, know what it tool it takes. So you want to really work with people so that they can help themselves.
Right. And that's usually the key for
Yeah,
others to be willing to help themselves while
yeah.
having such
That's
guidance
why
and assistance by
I
their
consider
side as
myself
well.
lucky because I'm a physician. People come to me with suffering, you
Hmm.
know. And now this has expanded to much deeper understanding of human suffering, how we can really transcend it, not overcome it completely, but transcend it, understanding it, not allowing it to do. In this manner, what I'm saying is the super pleasures are a distraction, but the inward joy, enjoyment, joy, and the bliss, that is much more important. People are not paying attention to that.
Right. It's funny because this makes me think about, for example, I saw a quote by this one Afghanistan student, and
Mm,
her name is Sakina.
mm.
She had made a statement that said, "Being a girl is a heavy crime, and tonight I want to curse my creator for creating me so
Oh,
that I can be so miserable and humiliated.
yeah.
No words can express my anger tonight. Goodbye, life." And when I read that, I was
Wow.
very sad for her
Very
because I
powerful,
know,
powerful trait, that statement. All the suffering that girl is going through, the women
right.
folks are going through in that. Yeah, terrible.
Well, the background of that, I'm not sure if you're aware of, but was because at that time, um, she understood that she was going to get education, and
Yeah,
then before you know it, they then said, "We're not going to be providing education
yeah.
to you women," and
Even
for
today,
me,
today's news, Trish, I saw it at 5 o'clock or so. Today's news told that all the universities there, they are abandoning all the women, and so they took to the streets again. So they are doing that all the time. So,
which is very sad. And
yeah.
mind you, I'm someone from the States,
Mm,
which thankfully we are given the opportunity to pursue
exactly.
education and have such opportunities to learn more, grow more.
Yeah.
I wonder to myself if those people in that area or region have access to the internet or, private tutors or something to that nature. Because mind you,
Mm.
I'm not familiar with that country very much. However, when I heard of such a statement from a little girl in this regard, it breaks my heart because
Yeah.
she took it to such a place like, gosh,
But
there are other people who
the
have such
way she
privilege.
expressed is so powerful.
Yes,
Oh my
because she
God.
she didn't choose to blame,
No.
shame, or guilt the people around her. It was more of like, gosh, my creator did
Mm.
this to me. Therefore, I'm so upset at my creator. But mind you, her creator is our creator.
Yeah.
And and then I wonder to myself, well, what is it that we can do
Yeah.
to help them so that they have what they're asking for, as they rightfully deserve it, and
Mm.
yeah, it was very sad.
Trish, I want to recommend a book to you. I think you will enjoy that. It's called
What is it called again?
Half the Sky. HALF Sky.
Have the sky.
Yeah, that's the title of the book. I don't remember the other, but I read this maybe 10, 15 years ago. I have that in my library, in my Kindle library too. This was about this lady from United States went and interviewed so many women around the world in different countries where they were like this. This girl was expressing how they were really persecuted and suffering and extreme suffering, right? But then he took some examples of the women who are heroines, who are really heroes. They stood up in the life and then they transcended the suffering and achieved a lot. Very heroic stories. Not that they have to suffer, not they have to put up with it, but what is their human capacity within themselves that brought them out of it is a very good reading for whoever is really a woman or woman sympathizer will enjoy the book.
Would you write the book down in the chat so I can look it up because I don't seem to find it online
Okay.
right now?
Let me go to my Kindle library later, and I'm going to send it to you through the back channel. Okay.
Sure thing. Thank you. I
Do
appreciate it.
I do you follow me or do I follow you? Okay.
I
Yeah.
have yet to
I'm
follow you, but I will do so now.
Yeah, okay. I followed you. So if you do that, then I will come back and find the correct title and author and put it there. Okay, maybe I'm
Great.
not saying
Thank
the
you.
correct title, but I remember the book. What was that about? It's a very influential book on me at least.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. See, when I look at the evening news, also, I don't look at the CNN, all this Fox and all that. I look at the public channel news. They have covered on Afghanistan like extensively during this war and before the war, and also even today. Also, they reported what the Taliban is doing to the universities there. They kind of abandoned all the women in the universities, and then they all took to the uh, because they were saying some clothing properly wore or something like that. Very ridiculous reason. But you're right. The suffering that women going through is enormous there. So we were trying to do something all the time, but still that philosophies, that kind of separations, they don't allow the women to go and take a shower for about a year or so. Inhuman, really. So
It is very
yeah,
inhuman.
yeah,
It's funny though because when I think of such situations, and granted, I feel like I'm very privileged and I have an enormous amount of freedom where I live and where I was raised. But at the same time, when I think of these people who are women, who are mothers, who are children, and to know the what I would consider a normal day to day to them would be a luxury.
yeah.
And it's just so sad to know that they don't have the
Not
same
even
opportunities.
complete day, Trish. One breakfast for them, like a 1 week meal. You know,
Right.
is that
Hmm.
different? You know the Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle.
Yes, I do. I read his books.
He said, I think he said something because I want to use him so that you'll understand my point. What he was saying is, uh, there is this Rene Descartes, who was the French philosopher who coined the term "I think, therefore I am." You know,
Hmm.
we feel and then convinced also that thinking is only our faculty; it's not us. We are conscious. That's why we are. Okay. And once we have that, what happens is you can see the dividing nations, dividing nationalities, patriotism, all those things as something breeding that ego in everybody, and that is separating us, and that is resulting in conflicts and all that. So he said 130 million people died because of this thing in the 20th century. You know, so that was very remarkable, and that's true too because a lot of people don't realize who they are, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, they say that if the more you invest in understanding yourself and your
Yeah.
core values,
Yes.
you get more in tune with capacity to love.
Yes.
And because obviously we are all love, we embody love, we embrace love, we are love. But when we can get to that understanding of what that looks like for ourselves, we can be able to share that love with others.
Yeah. See this uh, Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran, all those countries now, Even if you take India, so many places women are persecuted, and tremendous suffering going on. So for us to understand human or human beings, and we are all in one energy, it's a really liberating feeling, you know.
Right. It's funny though because it's like when you think of those countries and to know of the men who are persecuting these
Yeah,
women, I wonder to myself, like, did they forget what it was like to be in the womb, or
yeah.
let alone their mothers and the respect and love they carry for their mothers? Like, what was the area that didn't allow them
No,
to
they're
create
brainwashed.
this
Their brain.
understanding of what it meant in terms of the matriarchy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
No, no, they are
it's just
conditioned, Trish. They are conditioned in a certain way according to those religious books or political ideology, whatever they have. They are
mhm,
conditioned, so they are not allowing their humanity come through. They are more
their
like a,
humanity to come
yeah,
through. You're
yeah.
right. You're
There's
right.
a,
Their humanity is definitely
yeah.
fucked, which is really sad.
I think my friend Sundar is there. I invited him if he wants to come. Otherwise, he will come in the last minute and ask me questions. Sundar, come up now if you want to talk to me. So,
Yeah, but it is so disheartening. It's
yeah,
so disheartening. I am just amazed by how some of those cultures
yeah,
are, and yet I'm sure there's so much brilliance to be had, but it's
yes,
just such blockage that is there, and you're right. It really is it's as if they need some sort of shock to their humanity in order
yeah.
to.
Shaken up. Yeah, that's the thing. When I was reading major world teachers, they are not religious people, but they are more like a, seers or somebody who has broad vision, broad
Mhm,
attitude. He
mhm.
said something very important. What we need is a revolution in our consciousness, in our awareness of the problems. See, most of the people are sleeping, most of the people are not aware of these things. Right? They don't think they sleep also. But the more kids are getting into this, the more young people are getting into this. That's very heartening. Most of the youngsters nowadays, compared to where we were when we were youngsters, these people are very informed, very tuned to what's going on with the weather, what should be done. And they're very, very smart. I'm very gratified to see the youngsters like that.
Yeah, I feel like that too,
Yeah,
especially when those who really look to the stars, and they look to the bigger picture, when they
yeah,
look to the existence of nature and and the pursuit of helping humans be more sustainable.
yeah,
Like I find joy in those people. Whereas when
exactly.
I think of like organized religion, um, especially old style
Yeah,
traditional type organized religion, I'm very thrown off
yeah,
because it can be very cultish,
yes,
and I feel like it sometimes preys on those who are not in the full capacity of being healthy, if
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Because I kind of see religions are dividing people now, So I
Hmm.
don't really participate in any particular thing. I kind of into the spiritual thing.
It's no different than people who come into the
Yeah,
world and they are looking to create a business and to
yeah,
get some
exactly.
sort of
Exactly.
kickback in
This
terms of money
Taliban is
related,
like that.
and
The
and
Taliban
that
is,
if
they
and if
want,
greed fills their heart,
yeah.
they lose sight of what is the true meaning of love and
I don't know. It's
humanity.
the greed though. It's more like their steadfastness to the whatever thing is right according to the books. And then they
I
say,
think you're talking about maybe the self-righteous ways of
yeah,
being.
I know. Not
Yes.
only that, these people they do anything for the book. The Taliban's they're following that Sharia law or something like that, and for
Hmm.
that they will make their people go through tremendous suffering. That is good. Sundar, how are you?
Dr. Rao, as usual, doing good.
Yeah,
Love
good.
the top.
Yeah,
Hi,
Trish came
Trish.
up and we are having a nice conversation here. So you have anything?
Yeah.
We were talking about nutrition and genetics. I was introducing the topic and telling them what it is and all that. So you have any questions on that topic or anything else?
Yeah, yeah, doctor. Probably. I'm just taking the last conversation of Krish and yourself
Yeah,
as an analogy, and if you see that, you stated a word which was so true. Conditioning is probably blocking the
yeah,
expression of human being.
yes.
Do you really think, as an analogical point of view, do you think the modern medicine is actually blocking the nutrition or epigenetics by any chance?
Not modern medicine, but the modern medicine understanding your nutrition is expanding now. Okay, so, like I said, when I was a medical student and a young doctor, nobody was so all the time at home, and we didn't go to the hotels unless we were traveling or anything like that, right? But I came here, I had a culture shock. Everybody is ordering outside, going and eating outside. That was kind of shocked me. But then, as I understood the culture and all that, there are changes coming up in the nutrition. But then, this genetically based nutrition changes, they are going to be significant because something that you can show them what is agreeable for them, what is not, and then more people will follow that, and probably they'll improve their diet. Because I'm a wellness optimizer, right? I promote wellness. I'm just not treat the only disease, but also go into the roots of their disease. For example, somebody has a diabetes. I don't just say go take these medications and the insulin, but I teach them about everything about the diet, because I kind of spend a lot of time on that, and also activity, and also understand how this blood sugars goes up and down. All those things I take time to educate them, because I want them to have some control of what's going on at home and wherever they're going. Most of the time, people cheat on the diet, or they don't do exercise, and they end up eating a lot of bad foods because they think I'm taking the medication, I'm taking the insulin, that's okay, I can eat whatever I want. That kind of thing will go away. And if they know genetically that's not good for them, it's good for cellular damage, they may cooperate better. So it's all a science. I look at like a uh, positive, but then complementary to that is the ancient wisdom, true ancient wisdom, not these beliefs, not this superstitions and all that. But then there is a real science in ancient yoga and Ayurveda too. That means they kind of went out to the truth. They did compromise. They had like a hypothesis. They tested it out in populations, and their documentation was rather different. But then there were so many evident practices in the cultures, how they kept their health. For example, here anxiety, depression, mental health are rampant, right? That's because we have broken up, society, broken up the families, and so many problems at the corporations because they don't care about you. They want to just work, right? All those things are not there in ancient societies because they are all together, and they handled problems together, and then they took care of each other much better. So I kind of studied ancient cultures quite a bit. And even in India, for example, present India doesn't have a foggiest idea about what the Indians is themselves. So the same thing all over the world too. Doesn't mean we have to blame them. We have to bring the awareness and education. That's what I'm trying to do. Whatever I know, I kind of bring it to the practicalities where you can live well, live with the wellness I define. You have a strong and flexible body. You have an alert and aware mind. You have a kind and compassionate, loving heart, and you have joy in your life, in your activities, in your relationships, in whatever you do. Just be joyful and enjoy the human life. Even if you have diseases and all that, you can put up with them better if you have that internal resilience. That is not happening now because people are really not cared, and then people are not given the tools to make themselves much more resilient inside. Individuals may try that, but as a system, what are we doing? That's what I was always questioning.
Beautiful, doctor. Based on, I have another question on nutrigenomics. When you
Yeah.
started the room, you did mention how nutrition affects the genetic composition, epigenetics,
Yeah,
uh, and in turn, how the epigenetics probably do with the food. I mean,
yeah,
probably
it
the
is true.
digestion or anything. Can
Yeah,
you please
that's why
elucidate last bit?
nutrigenetics, nutrigenomics, two terms. One is where the nucleotides, genetic structures, they all influence the moleculars of the food. The other one is food molecules changing the genetical structure. It's all evolving. As it evolves, we are going to do much more on that. Let me invite Siva. He is also here, but he came 1 hour late. So that's okay. It is he's here. So that's a evolving branch. I'm studying it. I'm learning a lot about the process, nucleotides, and all of that. That is what my curiosity as a scientist, following the branch, how it is going to evolve. But then, as it evolves, we'll have more clarity about what kind of genetic makeup and genetic structure will be influenced by what kind of nutritional elements and vice versa. And the more we understand, that means we are better understanding what's going on in our bodies by looking at it, right? And then we will be able to make some meaningful changes in our diet accordingly that, and then we won't have the damage. I'm sure a lot of health conscious people who are selecting now fruits and salads and they're trying to be good diet, they will also listen to their own genomic structure and also understand what can really make a bad thing on their genetics, and then they will be more compliant with the diet. See, I think it will be common knowledge with the AI and also genomic going on. I think I'm not expecting more than 5 to 10 years. This should be commonly available, probably. But you know what I was making other point is this is all the new that's coming up. We're going to use that for sure, definitely. But there are practices that are common sense based, that are really wisdom based. People had experimented with these lifestyles for thousands of years and evolved lifestyles that were people are doing them without even thinking about it. Like for example, you are growing food in a non-polluted way where you don't have chemicals, fertilizers, and the cancer agents, right? That is not there, and the water also was pure. All those things were there, so we had good. Even grains were later introduced. The grains also, whole grains were there. Even now in India, people are going back to the whole grains that they had centuries ago, and they're growing them and eating them, not the refined rice, rice, processed wheat, all that. A lot of people are eating still that, but then people who are having diabetes in Andhra Pradesh, my state, a lot of people switch it to what are called chikudanya. That means they're small seed-like thing, but they make them into a variety of pancakes or whatever products they make, and then they eat them, and then they're protecting their health much more with that. Okay.
Yes, okay, okay. So the moment when you mentioned that whenever uh, we talk about, let's say, fruits, vegetables, or nutrition, yeah, everybody puts a disclaimer saying that it's only for
Mm.
educational purposes. So probably you are saying that once we get a data of nutrigenomics,
Yeah,
then it might be a mainline treatment as well. Am I
yeah,
correct in my
yeah.
understanding?
That's true. What I am saying is, we had at one time with Ayurveda, they used food as medicine. Okay, and that kind of knowledge eroded, and people don't really understand what is Ayurveda is. So once you understand the Ayurveda, you can follow those things by yourself and you will be happy. I am kind of Ayurveda follower in so many ways. So there are certain simple principles. Get up in the morning early and then drink some water, hot water, go and have a good bowel movement, and then go and have some exercise, work up your appetite, have a hearty breakfast, that is the whole meal for the day, and then you kind of uh, use as much walking as possible through the day, and also keep your mind clean and when you come home, you kind of also empty everything and unwind and then relax and go to bed. So you have to put some work for your body, for your mind, for your psyche, and so many things, right? But then our thing was, at the time, the approach was more towards nature, do everything naturally. And now we have fell off apart from that nature, and we are living in our head, and we think we are doing everything in the head with the information, with all of that. We don't take leave from it, and then we don't move the body as you used to do, and that's bad. That's why I tell them, move the body and keep the mind silent when you don't need it. You know, but people do the opposite way. They keep the mind working all the time, but then they keep the body in the chair. That's what I wanted to reverse all my patients. Everybody, I suggest to them.
Very true. Doctor, I mean, I just meet. It's almost 8:30 in India right now, Bangalore.
Yeah.
So I usually meet up with some people, and one of my friends went through an open heart surgery, uh, and he has a very decent lifestyle to be true.
Mm,
And I and after another CT, they recommended of 3 months. He has to undergo a surgery again,
mm.
which he's completely blocked out from his mind and is okay. Full lemon, a little bit of beetroot juice, and cinnamon, because we know the importance of potassium and magnesium in heart health, as well as nitric oxide. Uh, 2 or 3 days, he just mentions he feels much better. The breathing has become much better, and other things. But
Mhm.
still, as you rightly mentioned, as it is not a science yet, it is we can't recommend a dosage. We can't recommend exactly what can happen. So there is a lot of confusion and chaos over here.
Yeah.
So I hope nutrigenomics evolves so much so that
Or,
people can
but don't
recommend
expect
healthy.
answers right away, because this is at a experimental level and
Exactly.
education level. Okay. Let's see. Elizabeth is here. She may have a question or comment. Elizabeth, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I put my two questions into the chat. One is, what nutrition optimizes chromatin organization, stability, and homeostasis?
Yeah. I mean, particular foods are not the ones, but the holistic natural foods in general. But if you want to have particulars, then I can give you a couple of PDFs. You can read them, and they will suggest some ways.
A couple of what's?
PDFs. I have the PDFs. I will send them to you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, which foods inhibit demethylation?
Particular foods. I don't know. I have to look it up. They have mentioned
Yeah.
demethylization, so I have to look it up. Particular foods I don't remember. I was only taking
See,
gross points, you know.
I'm finding that most of the foods that prevent cancer or
Hmm.
prevent cancer
Yeah,
metastasis
exactly. Demethylation.
also, yeah, they also help with other diseases.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. See,
And
that is a
but
thing.
I'm looking, is there anything that's counter that
Yeah.
it may prevent cancer or prevent cancer metastasis,
Yeah.
but it damages your arteries or your bones or something else?
Yeah. The thing is, the uh, oxidation and radicals, all these things work in a way that's not prescribed, but that can be common, right? Metabolic damage, and that can lead to excessive growth, which is the cancer, by chromatid changes, genetic material changes. There are actually equations are there, which equations are pointing more towards cancer generation and more towards metabolic. You know, there is a separation, but it's not clear yet. I think they're still at it. And then some of the tests that you have to do for ordinary patients are very expensive, and these have to be funded by the government probably. I think it will come to a state where a lot of expense will be born by the corporations, other people, just to know, just to prevent diseases of civilization in their own workforce. That kind of business model probably will be coming up. Then we'll have much more bigger studies, and then much more. All these new chromatography that you're asking the test, those are very expensive at this time. But once they are really funded by the government, I think we'll have much better results of the studies, larger studies, and that's why I'm predicting 5 to 10 years we'll have a lot more information.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will have more rooms on this, and I didn't want to scare people by mentioning all the scientific equations, but I can bring those articles and then paste them so that people can, examine them and study them and maybe do their own research and all that. So look for these rooms coming up on Saturdays. I'm intending to do these rooms, but usually people take me to the spiritual way. you know I want to present a scientific thing, and then they want spirituality. I go into that too. But then lots of these things are mixed together. For example, the depressed women had high incidence of cervical cancer, one particular group. Okay, but then those women were treated for the depression. They kind of recovered some of the damage of the cervical cancer. So there is a psychosomatic, not psychosomatic, but deep psychological factors affecting us and provoking the cancer initiation and then growth also. So that is there too, but it's not just psychological; it's much deeper.
It could even be neuroplasticity
Yeah,
that because the
no,
person is able
neuroplasticity
to
is established.
change
No,
their brain, they can
neuroplasticity
change their
yeah, established now. It's
neurotransmissions.
Yeah, it is established now, Elizabeth, because neuroplasticity was known to the yogis in the terms of you have positivity, you reinforce the positivity, you become more positive. You are negativity, you deepen the negativity with more negativity, they will do that. They call that reinforcement or cognitive neuronal path. They call that samskara. So in the meditation, these embedded habits within you come up, and then in neuroplasticity is actively working against them. Like, for example, somebody has a stroke, we teach them aggressive rehab these days, and so that they can build nerve tissue around the necrosed area of the stroke. So that is already there, neuroplasticity. This is a gross neurological recreation is neuroplasticity. You can shape the neuronal structure, but this is more like a DNA, right? Much deeper.
So if you get a stroke, you have only 3 to 6 hours to get to a hyperbaric chamber so that you can
Now,
get the oxygen back into the brain. Now, how long do you have before you must start this
no, no, no.
meditation? And
Hyperbaric chamber not available to everybody. Even if you have it, suppose you have a stroke, right? The event happened, and immediately, by definition, that area has not had oxygenation and then necrosis, and those kind of people will have a resultant. It's not a reversible. That's called RIND is within 24 hours. But then people who have established stroke, they present to the hospital. They have the necrosed area. That's the dead tissue of the cortex, and that will not regenerate by itself, but around that new brain will be formed. That is the neuroplasticity. You can plastically you can shape the brain. That's what it is. I'm a big fan of aggressive therapy for these people. Start as soon as possible. Hyperbaric is good too, but it's not just oxygenation. It is the dead tissue that's the issue there.
so, what kind of meditation can reverse the decay of that part of the brain?
Yeah, meditation is more like reinforcement positivity that come down and take one negative thought and replace it with a positive. right? You can generate positivity induced neural tissue. That's there. But then meditation itself, it all depends on how you understand meditation. The meditation is a state resulting in being attentive all the time. So a lot of people, they kind of stimulate the mind so much, and then they do sit down for half an hour and suppress that, and then again they leave it alone. They are not attentive. They're thinking all over, and the brain goes all over. Especially in the modern society, we are allowing the thought rule us. It go all over, so we don't have the control of thought, not in the sense of forcible control, but understanding the how thought functions. The Western mind is too quick to jump onto the quick thought, mercurial thought, and that's why they can't figure. And then on top of it, these modern social media devices, AI, all this, they're going to enhance that speed of thought, and so that is going to be much more problem. Meditation will happen to you when you practice attentiveness in your life. You can do mindfulness, all this thing. They will calm it, but immediately it will come up. It's like a vacuum. You kind of suppress that and then put it down, and then it will come up. You can do the breathing, you do the awareness, all those things. But then you have to understand when your thought is quiet. Are you in that energy which is silent, which is calm, and that evolves from your practices of attention. I'm a meditativeness I talk about. I don't talk about only meditation. You can do it to the beginner, but then eventually you will graduate to where you are in silence and then using the thought. Big questions, Elizabeth. I will be talking about these things all the time. So there is a one coming on the meditation. I have done several talks also, but there will be coming one on. Um, there are two types. One is projecting the thought. That is what the most of the 95% of the meditation. But the other one is understanding the mind and transcending it. That's called manonasha. Kind of that pattern is destroyed. That's the one where you all meditative all the time. That means you are silent, but you use the thought with control. Big topics though.
Did I spell it right in the chat?
I don't usually see the chat because I'm focusing on people, right? So
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, because some of the studies that I've seen show that 9,000 hours of meditation, so an experienced practitioner,
yeah, I
actually
don't
decrease
meditation.
inflammation.
Yeah,
They actually have the ability to halt that feedback loop that increases inflammation in non-meditators. So that could be one of the ways in which a person can heal or stop a cancer or.
Yeah, when you go by the studies and all that, it's a very limited way of looking at it. Meditation was investigated thousands of years. That don't have your studies more. Meditations of years of work, ancient. That's what you need to get.
If I may add one thing that Dr. Rao has mentioned. Probably sometimes quantification, we use it in project management also, 10,000 hours, we mentioned 9,000 hours. Is it by any way neuroplasticity of meditation? I mean,
No. What it is if you put it in a gross thing, whatever we see outside, the body, the mind, thought, they're outside of real self of ours. So that is objective. But this process of meditation that is happening within you is the subjective. That is not measurable. See, don't measure something that is unmeasurable. Yes, like your feeling is there. You can measure the effects of the feeling, but actual feeling is subjective, right? So the internal matters are they have to be explored with awareness with intuition, not with intellect. That's the mistake a lot of people make, and then they get caught up in that intellect again. Who is that controller? Again, the intellect. So the more you have the intuitive feeling of these things, the depth you can go. Awareness. You know, there's a sleeping routine I do. At the end of it, I don't stay in get into the deeper awareness, and then you will abide your real self, and you go in that, and the thought is completely rest. So in the morning, you have the subjective sense of complete relief, no matter what the most of the people want to measure these things as though they are outside them. They are not. Anyway, I don't want to go too deeper into that. I think it's already 1.5 hours we are talking. Elizabeth is very interesting, but then we'll end up talking more about it as we go along. Okay. I think she sent me a lot of notes. I'm seeing for the first time now, Elizabeth. So I will,
Yeah, it's okay. So
I
yeah,
will
well,
talk to
I'm
you.
studying all these herbs that are supposed to
Yeah,
change the way your body
yeah.
works.
That's also
And there's
science.
some I've never even heard of.
Yeah. You know, there is a PDR for the herbs in German. Do you know that? They
The herbs
are
in German?
German. Yeah, the PDR was written for the herbs in German, and that is a good source to look at it. You know, they have investigated a lot more, and each herb at what's the ability and all of that. So you can look into that. That's a good book to study about herbs.
Oh, do you have that in the chat?
No, I don't have it. I knew about it. I never bothered because I don't use herbs, you know. So I'm more
Oh,
into the consciousness and internal matters. I don't use any herbs for myself. But you know, Indian food has a lot of herbs already mixed in there, you know. So we kind of allow to eat that way. But a lot of things are very, very nice. You know, for example, when I'm speaking, if there's some secretion in the throat, I take a clove, you know, and then just chew on it, and then all the secretions will go away. So they have practical wisdom like that, like a grandma tales like that. But then there is something behind that. That is what I'm interested in. How does these things work? Why do they claim that? That's what I'm always trying to do. Yeah, we can both study some herbs on the PDF. I think we will.
and I have
Will
right in front of me right now. If you have any questions about any herb, the one I do question is astragalus. So if you want to talk about an herb, that's where I'd like to talk about, but I don't want to hold up anybody else who has a question.
No, I don't
So go
use the
ahead.
herbs that much. Whatever the diet is, then the Indian diet, they use them. I kind of use them, but I don't use any specific purpose. Like, you know. So anyway, uh, we will have to leave now. But then I will be back again next Saturday at the same time, 8 o'clock Central. And this time, I was going to talk about music, how it is divine, you know, because there was a musician I was listening to his music. He's a wonderful composer, but he wanted to know what is the ancient wisdom behind music. There's so much there. So that is also very good aid for the meditation for a lot of my students, you know. So I wanted to talk to them, how can music, any type of music, can be divine. We're going to talk about that. Okay. Um, Shankar, do you like it? Do you like the topic?
Oh, me, no, it kind of sounds boring, but uh, but
Yeah.
what I found out through reading is that astragalus,
Mhm.
if you take a smaller amount, it does something different than if you take a larger amount.
Could be.
And so
Could be. Most of
that's
the
why I wanted to talk about it.
yeah. I mean, as I told you, I'm not into herbs, you know, so I don't know
Yeah, I
much
know.
about them.
Well, that's yeah. Okay, well, I have written 70 songs, but I don't I don't publish them really, so I don't study. I do everything organically, so
Yeah.
I don't really study.
Music.
I did pass my music composition course in
No,
college, but
ancient
Um,
wisdom has a Veda, Sama Veda, that is big on this music and arts, all the arts. So I was going to bring them my understanding of that, and that musician asked me this room. I said, okay, I will do that. I'm a variety of things. I don't do just one thing. So
thank you.
we will see. Okay, thank you, Sankar. We will be seeing you.
Last question. I mean, because you raised about music, do you really think that humming reduces the level of?
Oh yeah, sure, sure. That's what I'm going to bring it in, because how the music, good music vibes can help us really calm down a lot of these stress hormones that are induced by your own thought. Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'll see you next week then. Okay.